জিয়াউর রহমান বাংলাদেশের রাষ্ট্রপতি হিসেবে দায়িত্ব পালন করেন 1977-এর এপ্রিল থেকে 1981-এর মে পর্যন্ত। এর মধ্যে 1980 সালে নিউ ইয়র্কে জাতিসংঘের সদর দপ্তরে কয়েকজন সাংবাদিকের কাছে তিনি একটি সাক্ষাৎকার দিয়েছিলেন। এই সাংবাদিকদের বহুমুখী প্রশ্ন এবং অভিযোগের উত্তর জিয়া কিভাবে দিয়েছিলেন সেটা না দেখলেই নয়।
Hello and welcome back to another edition of World Chronicle. And here at United Nations headquarters in New York today to interview our guest are three news correspondents.
এই তিনজন চালক সবাই মিলে এখন প্রশ্নের তীর ছুঁড়ে মারবে জিয়াউর রহমানের দিকে।
Brennan Jones, correspondent for Interpress Service, the Third World News Agency, Peggy Wilkins of the international staff of the Wall Street Journal, and Prem Shankar Yar, editor, Financial Express, New Delhi.
কি একটি অমায়িক হাসি দিলেন তিনি, এটার কারণ কি?
Mr. President, the question I have to ask you today concerns your statement this morning to the General Assembly. I'm referring, of course, to your suggestion that the OPEC countries should cut the price of oil to the developing countries.
সবচেয়ে কঠিন প্রশ্নগুলো করেছেন প্রেম শঙ্কর। উনার প্রশ্নগুলো যে কঠিন সেটা জিয়া নিজেই বলেছেন। দেখতে থাকুন, পেয়ে যাবেন।
The Group of 77 were hoping to keep this within the ECDC, the Economic Cooperation for Developing Countries, and not to air it here. What were your reasons for doing this, and how have you been received?
Well, that's for you to judge how I have been received. The least developed countries are really badly affected as a result of the general inflation all over the world and the rise in oil price. On the one hand, we are paying far too much price for oil, and on the other hand, we are having to get from the developed countries finished products at higher and higher price.
স্ট্রাকচারটা খেয়াল করেছেন? অন দ্য ওয়ান হ্যান্ড, অন দি আদার হ্যান্ড, দুই পাশেই ডেফিনিট আর্টিকেল দি বসিয়েছেন তিনি। ইংরেজি জানা অনেক মানুষও এখানে একটি ভুল করে, তারা প্রথমাংশে অন ওয়ান হ্যান্ড বলে। বাংলাদেশের নামি দামি ইংরেজি পত্রিকাগুলোতেও এই ভুলটা অনেক সময় চোখে পড়ে, কিন্তু জিয়া এখানে ভুল করেননি।
So we have to find out ways and means by which we can balance up this maladjustment. And it is with this objective that I suggested that.
চলুন এবার কিছু আমেরিকান অ্যাকসেন্ট শোনা যাক।
I'd like to ask you about the commodity agreements. Does Bangladesh stand to gain from those? And what do you think are the prospects for coming to some commodity agreements out of the UN session?
Come again?
কড়া আমেরিকান অ্যাকসেন্টে জিজ্ঞেস করা এই প্রশ্নগুলো জিয়াউর রহমান প্রথমবার বুঝতে পারেননি। এটা কিন্তু স্বাভাবিক। আমরা কি সব কথা প্রথমবার শুনে বুঝতে পারি? আমি তো আমার বউয়ের কথা অনেক সময় দুবার বা তিনবার বলার পরও বুঝি না।
Would you just clearly say what you would like to know?
Okay, the agreements that would stabilize prices of commodities, and I assume that you would benefit through jute, for your jute and for your tea.
अरे कहना क्या चाहते हो?
Can you please come to the point?
Can you comment on what the United Nations is about to do in terms of stabilizing commodity prices and how Bangladesh could benefit?
Yeah, thank you very much. We find that for our raw products, countries like us are mainly exporting raw material. And for this, unfortunately, we are getting lesser price or not attractive price.
What about a commodity agreement?
So if an agreement like this is reached through negotiations and understanding, it is going to help countries like ours reasonably well and keep our export balanced.
Peggy has a follow-up question, as is often the case with journalists.
Your exports that would benefit would be jute, tea.
Yes, jute, tea, leather.
The talk in the corridors of the UN and amongst many delegates is that we might see a split here in the Group of 77.
গুঞ্জন শোনা যাচ্ছে যে গ্রুপ অফ 77 এর মধ্যে একটি ভাঙন দেখা দিতে পারে।
Are you thinking of trying to take leadership and forming a least developed country bloc to try and move away, a coalition of some sort to deal specifically with your set of problems?
This Brennan guy is not done yet. He has another question.
And the other question I'd like to ask is, it was hinted by U.S. Ambassador McHenry what the content of your speech would be and that we should watch it closely. Were you consulting with the U.S. government on this, and was there any kind of deal that was struck?
এত বড় অভিযোগ।
The answer to your first question is that there's nothing like that. I don't think this has any prospect of splitting the group of 77. And let me tell you, we had no talks with anybody on this count.
Prem Shankar chimes in.
But then how did Ambassador McHenry say with great confidence? He said, I don't want to steal the thunder of President Ziaur, who will be talking to you a little later. But you should listen to the speech being given by the President of Bangladesh and what he has to say about the energy question and the price of oil.
Well, I think you should ask him.
That sounds like a fitting reply.
The British government curtailed government-to-government aid because of what they saw as some of the abuses. The rationing program tends to go to the urban population and to civil service workers.
বহুকাল আগে আমার আব্বু যখন সেনাবাহিনীতে চাকরি করত তখন আমরা প্রতি মাসে রেশন পেতাম। চাল, ডাল, সয়াবিন তেল।
How do you respond to those criticisms and what really is being done right?
It will be interesting to see how Jia handles this question.
The object of our government is to gradually get rid of this rationing system, which is mainly concentrated in the urban areas, but we are trying to sort of...
Notice that Jia uses the expression sort of like a filler word. অনেকে kind of ব্যবহার করে, অনেকে you know.
Distribute more and more in the rural areas, and lately we have started open market operation.
Jia then goes on to mention some other measures taken to increase food production.
The object is ourselves to become self-sufficient food so that you don't have to get really food from abroad. It's not a good thing.
But realistically, you are going to need additional food aid for the next several years.
Brennan just gave him a reality check.
And what is the impact of the British government curtailment?
I'm coming to that point.
Brennan reminding him of the question asked earlier.
We shall be self-sufficient in food earlier than anybody thinks, and we have taken certain measures on that count, and we are beginning to get the result. As far as...
When do you expect food self-sufficiency?
Peggy cuts in on Jia.
I think in the next 2-3 years' time.
And do you think the British action will affect, well, the U.S. Food aid program?
With stubborn determination, Brennan reminds him once again.
Food aid by other countries will not be affected as a result of this. This is the time where we need support because we are trying to pick up and stand on our feet, and this is the time that friendly countries got to come forward and give us a helping hand in a big way.
In my judgment, Jia was the most emphatic here.
I think most people have the assessment that not much is going to come out of it, which leaves Pakistan or Bangladesh very much in a situation like a lot of developing countries. Insufficient assistance from the North or concessions by the North, and probably not much from OPEC. What does a country like yours do then?
Brennan is unstoppable. He has yet another question.
And if you could also follow that up on what do you tell the world in terms of the things you are doing to meet your own energy needs within Bangladesh?
Good, I think that's a very good question.
This is a popular technique used by many people, including in IELTS speaking. When you say this is a good question or it's a tricky question, it gives you some time to collect your thoughts and answer the question better.
It's a very difficult problem, let me tell you. But this should not dishearten us. There should be less of pessimism and more of optimism.
In other words, don't be a Debbie Downer.
We are not sitting idle. We are developing our natural gas. We are going to bring gas under more utilization. We may sell natural gas as LNG and use natural gas as CNG.
Oil deposits that you have indications of, are they anywhere near this line of demarcation of the continental shelf with India? Because there are some people, perhaps not well-wishers of either India or Bangladesh, who would like to see a kind of dispute coming up on this.
One of the journalists asks the most difficult questions, remember? Here's that comment from Jia himself.
I find your questions are one track, however. You see, we are looking for oil on the land.
President Ziaur, we have to close the show, but we want to thank you for being with us today to answer our questions on this edition of World Chronicle.